Hello everyone, welcome back. This is Chapter 2, Section 6 of the online video course Chinese Traditional Culture and Spiritual Healing. I'm Peng Keming, your friend, also a teacher at Guangdong University of Foreign Studies.
I am not good looking. I care about my looks all the time. How can I make myself attractive?
In the book Zhuangzi, many of those who grasp the true meaning of Tao look ugly. Some are lame and hunchbacked, some have a broken lip, some have huge neck tumors, and some have broken toes and can only walk on their heels. Among them, the most famous one must be Ai Tai Tuo. Why is he called such a name? Well, Ai refers to a face that looks unpleasant and somewhat discouraged. Tai refers to a tired look, and Tuo means a hunched back. By this name, we can tell how ugly he was. Surprisingly though, he was very charismatic. When a man met with him, he was interested in him and reluctant to leave. When a woman met with him, she requested her parents to marry her to him, and that she would rather be his concubine rather than being someone else's wife. And it was not a singular incident. More than a dozen of such things happened, and more similar incidents occurred. Ai Tai Tuo was not only extremely ugly, but also, in terms of talent, he barely puts forward any insights. He always followed others' opinions. In terms of power, he had no high positions to rescue others from misery. In terms of property, he was unable to give others any benefits. But there were so many people who are willing to be close to him. Why did these men and women, old and young, like him? What a mystery! At that time, the Duke Ai of the state Lu wanted to solve the mystery. So he sent someone to invite Ai Tai Tuo to be his guest. Duke Ai found him really ugly when they met face to face. However, after getting along with him for less than a month, even Duke Ai had an admiration for him, and in less than a year, Duke Ai trusted him so much that he asked Ai Tai Tuo to be the prime minister and handed over the power to him. But Ai Tai Tuo did not want to, and finally left Duke Ai. After he left, Duke Ai found that his life had become meaningless, and he felt down and lost, as if no one in the world can make him happy again. So Duke Ai invited another person he trusted, namely Confucius, the founder of Confucianism, and told him about the story of Ai Tai Tuo. Duke Ai asked Confucius with doubts, "Tell me, what kind of person is he? Why does he have so much charm? Indeed, how could there be such a person?" Usually, when a monarch wants to hand over the ruling power to a civilian and ask him to be the prime minister, the person must be grateful and honored. The whole thing is flattering to Ai Tai Tuo. Even Confucius had been waiting for such a good opportunity. However, Ai Tai Tuo was not interested in such a high position. His value system was completely different from the secular one. However, the secular value system was deeply impressed by his. Confucius said, "Ai Tai Tuo is so ugly, without any achievements, but wins people's admiration and love because he is a person whose powers are inclusive, and whose virtue does not manifest itself. What do you mean by his powers are inclusive? Confucius answered, Ai Tai Tuo realized that life or death, poverty or wealth, beauty or ugliness, ability or inability, praise or criticism are all external and impermanent and change every day. He cannot fully predict it, and he don't have complete control over it. So there is no need to worry for these external objects or let them disturb his mind. He always keeps his state of mind as peaceful as spring days. No matter what his destiny arranges for him, he accepts it with ease and responds positively in accordance with the situation. Therefore, his powers are truly inclusive. Duke Ai asked further, what do you mean by his virtues do not manifest itself? Confucius replied, when the water surface is flat, there is enough water to fill the uneven ground below the surface, and water becomes static. A large amount of static water can become the standard for people to measure whether a thing is flat or not, because it can keep the internal balance without external instability. When a man's virtue does not manifest itself, the person is like water at rest. He who is virtuous but do not show off will attract people and things, thus winning people's affection. Being virtuous is good, while those who boast their virtue and like to preach others will be disliked. For example, someone with modest income donated 10,000 RMB to victims of a disaster, which is virtuous. However, he boasts his donation and speaks about his virtue wherever he goes, and even asked others to learn from him. And he even maintains the idea that if others do not follow his good deeds, he will feel disappointed. By doing so, he becomes a person who people escapes from, rather than a man with virtue. Confucius once asked Lao Tzu for advice, and Lao Tzu told him that he should not overwhelm others with his virtue, but should be modest about his virtue. Lao Tzu added, a gentleman with utmost virtue looks dumb, because one with utmost virtue normally knows how to care for others, care for their ego and emotions. Lao Tzu said, be able but modest. It is very similar to the connotation of Zhuangzi, who said virtue does not manifest itself. Now we can summarize the charm of the ugly Ai Tai Tuo. First of all, he was in harmony with himself. As for his ugliness, he kindly accepted. He also didn't envy others' beautiful looks, because beauty is impermanent. No matter how beautiful they are, beautiful people will get old. Beauty's fear of aging is no less than ordinary people's fear of not being beautiful. More importantly, Ai Tai Tuo held the belief that his looks had nothing to do with his mind, his state of life, and his level of happiness. He didn't care about beauty or ugliness, honor or disgrace. What he really cared about is his internal abundance. Secondly, he was in harmony with others. He had internal abundance, but at the same time, he also respected the nature of all other lives, the rhythm and direction of every soul. He was peaceful, joyful, and responsible, and he accepted all the states of all the people. He never boasted of his virtue. Meanwhile, he helped others to realize what a better person they are and a better life they can live, and made efforts to embody them. The charisma of the ugly person Ai Tai Tuo lies in his spring-like internal abundance and water-at-rest-like personality. The story of Ai Tai Tuo tells us that the charm of a person's inner mind is far greater than that of his appearance. Appearance is born and hard to change, while the mind can be cultivated after birth. When we really understand this, will we still be upset about our not-so-beautiful looks? We've now reached the end of Section 6, Chapter 2. Before you finish, I have a question for you, and you could see the question on the screen. How do you define beautiful and ugly? Thank you for watching. See you next time.